So one of the things I like to use ChatGPT for is for helping me with my Spanish learning. So I ask it, can you act as an experienced Spanish teacher for Spanish in Spain, Europe? And remember to do the following. Always correct my mistakes, except for in role playing. There only correct the big mistakes that make me ununderstandable and save all the rest for the end. I ask it to make sure that when it's correcting me, to always show the error and the correction and provide an explanation of why it was incorrect. And when correcting a word or a group of words, also give me the translation in English and an an example in context, so I can actually understand a little bit more how it's used in everyday language. So it's great. Okay, it's updated its memory, and it asks me, is there anything in specific that I'd like to practice? It immediately starts speaking in Spanish. If that is too much or too high of a level for you, you can also ask it, can you please reduce your level of Spanish, or can you speak to me in English, except for in the exercises and role plays? But I say, yes, okay, I want to practice some conjugations. I want to do them for the 25 most used verbs in Spanish. Can you give me 30 exercises, all in the present tense? It says, fine, let's do that. And it gives me a list of exercises that I can uh, do to practice my conjugation. So you have the sentence, you have the infinitivo, and you can fill in the blank, basically with the correct conjugation. So to illustrate, I did a few, including a few incorrect ones, and I hit enter, and I asked it, and it immediately, without even asking it, it starts correcting me. It says, okay, this one is correct, this one is incorrect. Here, instead of using aria, you should have used hace, and it explains to me why, and it gives me example of the sentence and the translation of the sentence. I still don't quite get it. Like, I thought maybe the conditional was also a good answer here. So I follow up and I say, okay, can you explain to me why I need to use the present indicative instead of the conditional in this sentence? And then it gives me a very long and detailed explanation with the error, with the correction, gives me a little bit of a grammar explanation of when I would use the conditional, when I would use the regular indicativo. Um, and it explains to me everything step by step with some examples in context and a little summary. So this really is like receiving a 10-minute, 15-minute grammar lesson. I read all of it, and if there's parts that I don't understand, I ask it to explain it more or give more examples. And for now, I say, okay, the subjunctivo is still a bit too difficult for me because that was the situation in which you would have used the conditional in that sentence. So I said, remember to only give me exercises in the indicativo for now. And it says, perfect, understood. That's what I would like to do. Do you want to continue with your responses, or do you want to do something else? And I say, okay, it's time for something else. I could do more conjugations, hundreds of sentences or 10 at a time, and ask it to continue generating them. But I say, I want to do a role play because I have to go to the doctor because I hurt my wrist a bit and I want to prepare the conversation. So it says, okay, let's go. We'll do a role play. It summarizes the goal of the role play and the context, and it starts by pretending to be the receptionist. And it greets me and it asks me if I have a medical appointment or not. And I start responding in Spanish. And then immediately the receptionist starts correcting me on basis of a comma that I put incorrectly. So I stop it. I say, remember, don't correct me during the role play. Act like a human would. Only ask me to clarify if it's unclear and save the feedback for the end. So we continue, it updates the memory, we continue the role play. I give my name, I pretend like I don't understand what the doctor's asking me, I explain the symptoms, etc., etc. And then whenever you feel like you've practiced enough, I say stop the role play and give me feedback. And then one by one, it goes through all of my sentences and explains the errors in there. Like anything from misspelling wrist to something that I said that was a bit too informal and the correct way of saying it. And it lists all of the different errors as well as a kind of short summary. Okay, I need to make sure to work on my pronouns, and I need to make sure to work on my conjugations in the present tense, etc., etc. One of the errors I didn't quite understand, so I said, okay, in Spanish it was a bit too difficult. Can you explain it to me in English, please? And then it goes and explains in detail exactly why I should have said moverla and not moverlo, because wrist is a feminine word. Um, and then the thing that I really like to do after a role play, after conjugations, I say, okay, I've made such and such errors, or I've made 10 errors. Can you give me 20 practice sentences to practice these mistakes? So what it does then, it gives it step by step usually, but you can also ask, can you give me 20 mixed practice sentences if you don't want to make it too easy for yourself? And then it generates exercises to practice, for example, the difference between death and hasta, which was something I did incorrectly in one of the sentences I wrote. And just like that, in